Usually when we think about achieving something, something really significant in our lives, we default to this incredibly physical approach.
Right, like a very brutalist mindset.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
treat success like we're moving this massive boulder up a really steep hill. It becomes all about friction and, sheer force.
Yeah, you just put your shoulder into the stone and push.
And you sweat and you push until your muscles just give out. And if that boulder doesn't move, the assumption we always make is that, well, you just aren't pushing hard enough.
It is the classic Newtonian view, but applied to human existence.
Right.
Every action must have an equal and opposite reaction. We are deeply conditioned, like socially and culturally, to just glorify the struggle.
Oh, absolutely. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor.
We really do. We operate under this unquestioned assumption that suffering is, it's the toll we absolutely have to pay on the road to any kind of meaningful achievement.
But then you encounter a completely different paradigm.
Yeah.
One where the boulder, the hill, the pushing, even the sweat,
They're all just surface level.
right? They're all just surface level expressions of this invisible underlying architecture.
Yeah.
And suddenly you realize you might have spent your entire life exhausting yourself trying to move heavy rocks
Yeah.
when you could have just been, altering the gravity.
Which is a wild concept to wrap your head around.
It really is. So today we are unpacking a profound and honestly, potentially life-altering set of concepts extracted from a fascinating source document.
Yes, the text detailing Tesla's Law of Resonant Coherence.
Exactly. We're looking at this metaphysical yet incredibly mechanical framework attributed to Nikola Tesla. And the mission of this deep dive is to explore a staggering premise.
It really challenges everything.
It does. The premise is that the traditional ways you've been taught to navigate your life, the constant asking, the pleading, the relentless hustling,
The endless waiting for your big break.
all of that might actually be the exact mechanism silently sabotaging you.
It requires a radical departure from basically everything we are taught about effort and reward.
For sure.
The foundational premise of this text is that Tesla did not view the universe as an empty, passive void.
Meaning, it's not a place where you have to manufacture your reality from scratch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He didn't see it as like a blank canvas waiting for you to paint on it. Instead, he saw the universe as a living, highly intelligent ocean of energy.
A living ocean. I love that phrasing from the text.
Right, and this ocean is already completely saturated with pre-existing possibilities.
So for you listening right now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were doing absolutely everything right?
Oh man, I think everyone has felt that.
Right. You are working hard, you're saying the right things, you're putting in the long hours, you're reading all the self-help books, but you always seem to fall just short of your goals.
You get right up to the finish line and something inexplicably goes wrong.
Yes. Today, we are exploring exactly why that happens. And we aren't talking about bad luck here.
No, not at all.
We aren't talking about karma or fate or being, destined to struggle. We are looking at this through the lens of pure, objective, energetic engineering.
Because according to this text, everything you call the future or destiny or miracle, it already exists in an invisible field.
It's just waiting for one single thing to snap it into physical reality.
And that one thing is the correct tuning of the observer.
The tuning of the observer, that's huge.
It is the master key to this entire philosophy. It is not about creation, it is entirely about alignment.
So the reality you want doesn't need to be forged through blood, sweat, and tears.
Exactly. It needs to be tuned into, like a frequency.
Okay, let's lay the groundwork for what this actually means in practice. Because if everything already exists in a latent state,
If the universe is this giant menu of every possible outcome,
right, why is it that some people just effortlessly encounter incredible opportunities? You know the exact type of person I mean.
oh, absolutely. The ones who walk into a random coffee shop and boom, stumble into an investor for their business. Yeah, or they make a casual decision that inexplicably skyrockets their career. Meanwhile, others spend their entire lives waiting, trying, asking, and nothing moves.
It can feel incredibly unfair.
It does. So the obvious question is the universe just picking favorites?
According to the source material, absolutely not.
Not at all.
No, the universe is described as a completely neutral mathematical field. It doesn't possess a human ego.
So it's not sitting up there judging us.
Exactly. It doesn't judge whether you are a good person or a bad person, and it certainly doesn't pick favorites.
What does it do then?
What it does do, however, is respond with absolute mathematical precision to something that almost no one ever consciously notices about themselves,
Which is?
their complete integrated state of being. The text argues that the universe does not respond to single words.
Right.
It doesn't respond to isolated wishes or desperate pleas. It responds to your total vibrational output, which introduces what the document refers to as the trap of lack. And this is where our usual culturally ingrained methods of interacting with the universe completely fail us.
They backfire entirely.
They really do. Think about how we are taught to operate. When we want something, let's say financial security, or a healthier body, or a stable relationship.
What is our first move?
Exactly, what do? We ask for it, we pray for it, we visualize it, but we visualize it from the perspective of not having it.
Yes, from a place of absence.
But the text states that most people's prayers or requests are entirely useless.
And it's not because they forgot to say please.
Right, it's because of the underlying emotional frequency of the request itself.
It all comes down to the origin point of the request. When
Right.
you ask for something from a place of desperation, from a deep-seated feeling that you currently do not have it.
Which is usually why we're asking in the first place.
Exactly. But when you do that, you are sending a remarkably clear, dominant vibrational message to this energetic field.
And that message is what?
The message is simply, I am experiencing the lack of this thing.
Because the universe doesn't speak human languages.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't process English or Spanish syntax. It processes vibration.
Right, the field doesn't interpret the linguistic meaning of the words coming out of your mouth. It interprets the bioenergetic signature of your state.
The bioenergetic signature. So if your state is, I am lacking,
The universe responds by confirming that lack. It just mirrors your dominant frequency right back to you.
wow.
And the text makes a crucial distinction here that we have to understand. This isn't a punishment
The universe isn't denying you out of cruelty.
or teaching you a lesson. It is simply operating with perfect consistency. It is a mirror reflecting whatever you are broadcasting.
Okay, let's unpack this though. I have to stop you there because I want to ground this in a harsh reality.
Sure.
If a single mother is working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on, and she's constantly stressing about making rent, is Tesla's framework really saying it's her fault for broadcasting lack? Because that feels incredibly dismissive of real-world economics, structural inequality, basic human survival instincts.
It sounds a bit like victim blaming on the surface.
Yeah, it borders on victim blaming.
That is the most common and, frankly, the most important friction point when discussing these concepts.
I would imagine so.
It is vital to separate moral culpability from mechanical physics. The text is not assigning blame, it is describing a mechanism.
Okay, a mechanism. Like what?
Think of it like gravity. Gravity doesn't care if you are a single mother working 3 jobs or a billionaire.
Right, if you trip over a ledge, you fall.
Exactly. You will fall. Gravity isn't punishing you, it is just executing a law of physics.
So the framework suggests that resonance is an equally impersonal law.
Precisely. It's not a moral judgment on her struggle at all.
Okay, that makes sense. It's mechanics, not morality.
The source material recognizes the intense difficulty of the human experience, but it points out that the field of potentiality doesn't register our moral justifications for why we are stressed.
It only registers the stress itself.
Yes. So while society rightly recognizes the unfairness of her situation, the energetic field simply reads the frequency of survival and lack.
And mechanistically, it can only supply realities that match that frequency.
That's the tragic loop, but understanding this isn't about blaming people for their hardships.
Right.
It's about revealing the hidden control panel they can use to escape those hardships, even when the external world is aggressively stacked against them.
Okay, I like that phrasing, the hidden control panel. To help visualize this mechanism, I was thinking about acoustic resonance.
Oh, that's a great example.
Like if you take 2 identical tuning forks and place them on opposite sides of a room,
Yeah.
and you strike the first one so it rings at an A note, the second tuning fork will literally start vibrating and humming that exact same I note completely on its own.
Without anyone touching it.
Right. It's called sympathetic resonance. But if that second tuning fork is dented or built to ring a C note, the first one can ring all day long and the second one will just sit there in dead silence.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
Thanks. The text uses a similar analogy with an old analog radio.
Yes, the kitchen radio analogy.
Right, you can have a radio sitting on your kitchen counter, and you can yell at the speaker, you can beg it to play your favorite jazz station.
You can offer it money.
Exactly. You can explain to the radio that you've had a terrible day and you really deserve to hear some jazz. but nothing happens.
Because the radio isn't ignoring you out of spite.
No. To hear the jazz station, you don't need to beg. And you certainly don't need to convince the radio of your worthiness.
You just have to physically turn the dial to the precise frequency of the broadcast.
Which highlights why Tesla approached this entire concept as pure engineering.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, a human consciousness simply cannot access a specific reality unless it is vibrationally attuned to it.
Just like the tuning forks.
Exactly. You cannot produce an A note if you are structurally tuned to a C note. It has absolutely nothing to do with whether you are a good person.
So if you are broadcasting desperation, you are out of harmony with the frequency of success. Period.
Period.
So if harmony is the master key to this whole universe, we really have to figure out how to actually tune this internal radio.
Because we don't have a plastic knob to twist.
Right, unlike the one on the kitchen counter, I can't just reach over and twist a dial. How do we shift our frequency?
The source text outlines a very specific three-dimensional internal mechanism.
Thought, emotion, and word.
Yes. This is where the engineering aspect becomes highly granular. For this system to work, for the human tuning fork to ring true, those three components must align perfectly.
They have to be in sync.
They have to achieve what physicists call coherence. If they contradict each other.
Like if your mind is visualizing one thing, but your heart is terrified of another.
Exactly, and your mouth is saying a third completely different thing. That creates what the text calls noise.
And in any electrical or vibrational system, noise is the ultimate enemy of power.
Think of a machine with misaligned gears.
It sparks, it grinds.
It overheats, but it doesn't perform its actual function. The kinetic energy is entirely dissipated as heat and sound.
Just totally wasted.
The text argues that a human consciousness trapped in internal conflict operates the exact same way.
It cannot materialize a coherent reality because its creative energy is constantly bleeding out through these internal contradictions.
And the statistics provided in the source on how much internal conflict we actually carry, they are pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I was shocked by this. It states that over 90% of our daily human decisions are completely automatic.
90%.
They aren't driven by rational, conscious, present moment thought at all. They're driven by deeply embedded, subconscious emotional patterns.
We operate on this massive autopilot system.
All genuinely believing we are at the steering wheel.
Right. So, you might wake up and think you are making a conscious choice to be confident and assertive today.
But in reality, your nervous system is just replaying a 20-year-old internal state of anxiety.
Exactly. We think we are deliberately charting a course for our future, but we are essentially just hitting replay on our past emotional states.
And because that underlying emotion is the true fuel of the signal, that is what the universe is forced to respond to.
The conscious thought is just the map, but the subconscious emotion is the engine.
Wow.
If the engine is running on fear, pointing the map towards success won't move you an inch in that direction.
Which brings us to a major critique, the text levels at modern self-help. Specifically, the culture of forced positivity.
Oh, yes. The toxic positivity trap.
Think about how many times you've told yourself, everything's going to be fine, I'm doing great, I'm going to ace this.
While your stomach is completely tied in knots.
Yes. Your breathing is shallow, you are sweating through your shirt, your body is physically experiencing a threat response.
But your brain is desperately trying to overlay it with positive affirmations.
Right. It creates a massive internal fracture.
You are essentially splitting your energetic output into opposite directions.
The text uses a physics concept here that I think we really need to unpack. It says the universe calculates the resultant vector, not the average.
Yes, the resultant vector.
But let's break that down because it's so crucial. In physics, a resultant vector is what happens when you combine multiple forces pushing on an object.
Right, like if you're pushing a block.
Exactly. If you have 5 pounds of force pushing a block to the right, but you have 100 pounds of force pushing that same block to the left,
the block moves to the left.
the block moves left. The 5 pounds of rightward force doesn't cancel out the 100 pounds. It just slightly reduces the speed at which it travels left.
That is a perfect translation of the text's premise.
So, applied to human consciousness, the universe doesn't care about the 5 pounds of positive affirmations you mumbled in the mirror this morning.
Not if you have 100 pounds of subconscious anxiety pulling you the other way for the rest of the day.
Right. You cannot fix a whole year of deeply ingrained negative noise with 5 seconds of forced optimism.
It just mathematically doesn't work.
The universe doesn't take a polite average of your intentions. It calculates the actual brutal momentum of your combined energy.
And this mechanical view is heavily supported by the linguistics research mentioned in the source document.
Oh, this part was fascinating.
Right. When we speak, the human brain, both the speakers and the listeners, actually responds far more to the tone, the rhythm, and the cadence of the speech.
Than to the actual literal dictionary definitions of the words being spoken.
Exactly. The physiological markers of speech, which are driven by the vagus nerve, they betray the true internal state.
So you can't fake it.
You really can't. How something is spoken carries the actual energetic weight, vastly overpowering what is said.
So the physical vibration of the voice gives away the truth, no matter what words you choose to string together.
The text argues that the spoken word should act as the closing switch of an electrical circuit, not the starting point.
What happens if it's the starting point?
Well, if you speak a positive word while internally marinating in fear or doubt, you aren't fixing the fear.
You are actively creating a short circuit in your energetic system.
You are essentially taking a radio that is tuned to static and just turning the volume dial all the way up.
Oh man, that's a great visual.
It doesn't make the music appear, it just makes the noise deafening.
To truly understand how a perfectly aligned system functions, where thought, emotion, and word are in total flawless lockstep.
We need to look at the master.
Yes, we need to examine the historical example the text relies on, which is Nikola Tesla himself.
The way this man operated his own consciousness is almost beyond comprehension.
It really is. The source claims that Tesla never invented anything by forcing solutions.
Oh, he didn't sit at a desk, grinding his teeth,
Pulling his hair out, trying to wrestle a breakthrough out of the universe.
His approach was the exact antithesis of brute force.
What did he do instead?
He would intentionally enter a state of profound, deep internal silence.
Just complete stillness.
He cultivated this ability to completely shut off the internal noise of the ego and the anxious, analytical mind.
And it was only in that total silence that the information field became accessible to him.
He famously claimed that complete, incredibly complex ideas would simply manifest in his mind, fully formed.
He often stated he didn't invent these machines, right? He received them.
Yes, he was just the receiver tuning into the broadcast.
There's an anecdote from the text that illustrates the sheer power of this alignment, and I just couldn't believe it when I read it.
The mental testing.
Yes. Tesla had this documented ability to completely test his physical inventions inside his own mind.
It wasn't just daydreaming.
No.
Yo.
He wouldn't just imagine a blurry conceptual idea of a motor. He would build the machine mentally down to the exact millimeter, and then he'd turn it on. He would turn it on mentally and let it run for weeks in his head, which is insane. He could then go back into his mental model, note the friction and wear and tear on specific metal parts, identify microscopic flaws, and make engineering adjustments.
All before he ever touched a single physical tool or drafted a blueprint.
While it sounds almost like science fiction, it perfectly illustrates the law of resonant coherence in action.
Because his internal model, his thought and emotion regarding the invention, was in such perfect, undisturbed vibrational harmony.
So the external physical model simply had to follow suit when he finally built it.
There was zero friction between the conception and the manifestation.
Because there was zero internal doubt or noise polluting the signal.
The contrast here with normal engineering is just wild.
Usually you build a prototype, it blows up, you figure out why, you build another one, it catches fire.
It's a grueling process of physical trial and error.
But Tesla bypassed the physical trial and error by perfecting the energetic blueprint first.
And the source details two more stories that show how deep this sensitivity went.
Right.
First, it alleges that Tesla could predict machine failures in the physical world in real time before they happened.
Not because he was clairvoyant or psychic.
No, but because his personal sensitivity to resonance was so highly tuned that he could physically detect the most subtle vibrational imbalances in a mechanical system.
Long before those imbalances escalated into a catastrophic physical breakdown.
The text uses this as a direct metaphor for human life, actually.
Oh, how so?
Think about how often small, ignored internal imbalances precede massive external breakdowns in our lives.
Like a lingering resentment toward a spouse.
Exactly. Or a chronic low-level anxiety about money. A subtle but persistent feeling of unworthiness.
And then we act surprised when things fall apart.
Right, we treat the sudden heart attack or the sudden divorce as a surprise. But the text argues that the external collapse is always, without exception, preceded by a long, slow internal shift in frequency.
It's just the machine finally breaking down for the subtle vibrations.
Yes.
And the second story is equally revealing about his priorities.
The project abandonment?
Yeah. Tesla apparently abandoned highly profitable, massive commercial projects simply because the external pressure from investors, or the public, began to taint his internal drive.
He literally walked away from millions of dollars.
Just because the external demands were creating internal noise.
He recognized that keeping his energy field pure and coherent was infinitely more valuable than gaining wealth at the cost of his internal harmony.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If we contrast Tesla's philosophy with our modern hyper-caffeinated hustle culture, the difference is jarring.
They are completely incompatible.
Hustle culture demands that we grind, push, and exert our willpower over reality, right? No matter the cost to our mental equilibrium or our physical nervous systems.
But Tesla believed that excessive human will, the desperate, white-knuckled need to force a specific outcome, that is actually a highly sophisticated form of energetic interference.
So trying too hard is actually breaking the circuit.
Because when you are trying to force reality to bend to your will, what are you fundamentally doing on an emotional level?
You are revealing a deep, subconscious lack of trust in the process.
You are broadcasting the belief, I don't believe this will happen naturally, so I have to force it.
And going back to the physics we discussed, the universe calculates the resultant vector.
Right. That lack of trust, that underlying panic, that becomes the dominant signal you are broadcasting.
So the field reads the desperation, not the goal you are desperate for.
Exactly. It's tragic, really.
Which brings up a massive psychological hurdle.
The ego.
Yeah. If Tesla's method of internal harmony and deep silence is so incredibly effective and honestly, so much more energy efficient than grinding ourselves to dust,
why do we constantly revert to struggling?
Why is it so incredibly hard to just let go and tune the dial?
The source points to a very uncomfortable truth about this. Our own identities are the ultimate roadblock.
It claims that the greatest prison for humans isn't a physical place.
No, it's a cognitive structure. It is the prison of the programmed mind.
The text argues that from a very young age, we are conditioned to view ourselves as small, fragile, and entirely separate from the universe.
And when you hold that worldview, you automatically adopt the role of a supplicant.
Like a beggar standing outside the door of the cosmos.
Hoping it throws some scraps your way, yeah. And supplicants do not create reality, they only react to whatever happens to them.
So the core problem is that the ego fights tooth and nail to maintain its existence.
It wants to protect its established identity at all costs.
Even if that identity is entirely rooted in limitation, trauma, and suffering.
Yes.
But why would the human mind actively choose suffering, though? That seems completely contrary to our biological drive for comfort.
Because the human mind prioritizes familiarity over comfort.
The suffering is known.
Exactly. The parameters of the pain are mapped out. True creation, true manifestation through resonant coherence requires you to completely abandon the familiar attitude of the one who asks, the one who waits, and the one who suffers.
And to the ego, that abandonment feels like literal death.
It is a psychological obliteration of who you think you are.
The text suggests that the ego actually prefers the warm, familiar blanket of known pain
over the immense, unmapped responsibility of stepping into the unknown as a conscious creator.
I want to pose a really tough question to you listening, based directly on this text. Who do you have to stop being in order to live the life you say you want?
That is a heavy question.
Really let that sink in, because the text drops this brutal truth. When you say, I can't do this, or success just isn't for people from my background, or I'm always going to be broke.
The universe does not argue with you.
It doesn't send a motivational speaker to comfort you. It respectfully, coldly, and exactingly confirms your self-image.
It says, you're absolutely right. Here's the reality that matches that belief.
The physics of this identity shift are fascinating. The text explains it as a fundamental, unbreakable law.
Yes, two contradictory states cannot occupy the same space simultaneously.
You cannot hold the identity of a struggling, marginalized victim and simultaneously broadcast the frequency of effortless, abundant success.
It is a physical impossibility.
So if you fiercely maintain your identity as a fighter, someone who prides themselves on always battling against the odds to survive,
what do you think the universe is compelled to supply you with?
more battles, endless conflicts to fight. because a fighter ceases to exist if there's no war.
The field will continuously provide the necessary environmental conditions to validate your chosen identity.
If you insist you are a fighter, the field provides the war.
But the text reveals a profound psychological workaround here.
Right, the energy-saving thing.
Yeah, the human brain actually resists radical change, much less when the change is framed not as entering the unknown, but as an energy-saving measure.
That's a really interesting pivot. Explain how that works.
Think about the immense daily caloric and bioenergetic cost of maintaining a false, conflicted identity.
Oh, it's exhausting.
Think about the constant internal dialogue, the rationalizations, the defensive posturing, the sheer exhaustion of acting tough when you feel terrified, or pretending you are fine when your world is falling apart.
It is a massive drain on your nervous system.
So achieving true harmony, dropping the facade, and aligning your thought, emotion, and word isn't about doing more work to build a new you.
It is actually the ultimate energy-saving measure.
It's about stopping the leak.
When you frame the shift as putting down a heavy weight rather than climbing a new mountain, the ego's resistance drops significantly.
Because the ego also wants to conserve energy.
Okay, let's play this out. Let's say you do it.
You drop the weight.
You shed the old identity. You stop being the fighter, you stop being the victim, you stop the energy leaks.
And you manage to tune your internal radio to the new frequency of quiet, resolved certainty.
According to the text, a whole new, highly frustrating challenge immediately arises.
Oh, the waiting period?
Yes. The inevitable delay between your internal, invisible shift and the external, physical manifestation of that shift.
This is the exact juncture where the vast majority of people completely abandon the process.
The text describes a phenomenon that I think everyone listening will recognize.
The almost there state.
People who are honest, they are hardworking, they've done the internal work, they go to therapy, but they always seem to be in a perpetual state of being almost there.
The big promotion is almost finalized.
The right partner is almost ready to commit, the funding for the business is almost in the bank, and then it stalls.
The text argues this isn't terrible luck.
It's because almost there has actually become their stable, dominant internal frequency.
They have literally tuned their internal radio to the broadcasting station of almost.
And so the universe faithfully, accurately reflects almost their scenarios back to them in a continuous loop.
But what happens when you finally break that pattern?
When you genuinely change your baseline state to one of complete present tense resolution.
The text provides a stark warning. The external physical world does not change instantly.
There is a temporal lag.
You wake up the next morning, and the people around you are still complaining about the same things.
Your bank account balance looks exactly the same, and the problems on your desk haven't magically vanished.
And your immediate knee-jerk reaction is, this is garbage. I changed my frequency. I achieved coherence. Where's my completely transformed life?
And the moment you have that reaction,
You have failed what the text calls the test of stability.
the quantum field, this resonant ocean of energy, is essentially monitoring the structural integrity of your new signal.
It is checking, is this new state a permanent structural shift in the observer's consciousness?
Or is it just a fleeting emotional high?
Are you just hyped up from reading an inspiring book, or have you fundamentally altered your baseline reality?
I love the electrical circuit analogy the text uses for this, because it really takes the mysticism out of it.
It does.
It says that demanding immediate external proof of your internal shift is like closing an electrical switch, and then immediately ripping the wire out of the wall to check if the electricity has arrived at the light bulb yet.
By ripping the wire out to check, you break the flow.
You destroy the very mechanism you are relying on to bring the power.
This raises an important question, though, and it brings us to a profound reevaluation of our perception of time itself.
Right.
According to Tesla's framework in this document, time, or more specifically, the psychological feeling of delay, is actually a symptom of disharmony.
When you are constantly checking your watch, looking out the window, and complaining that this is taking way too long, what are you actually doing on an energetic level?
You are broadcasting lack again.
You are literally screaming into the field, "It is not here yet. I am currently separated from the thing I want."
You have slipped right back into the frequency of absence.
And the mathematical field immediately reads that complaint as your new dominant instruction.
It says, the observer is experiencing delay and separation.
And it faithfully reflects more delay and separation back into your physical reality.
You literally restart the entire waiting cycle from scratch every single time you panic about how long it's taking.
This is where the rubber meets the road. We've diagnosed the core problem, the trap of lack.
We've explored the mechanics of the resultant vector and the ego's terrified resistance to change.
We understand the delicate mechanics of the waiting period and the test of stability.
But how do we actually do this?
Exactly. How do we apply this incredibly profound physics lesson in the absolute chaos of daily life?
Because it's easy to be coherent on a meditation retreat.
It's really hard to be coherent on a Tuesday morning when the kids are screaming, you're late for work, your car won't start, and you have a massive deadline looming.
The source is uncompromising on this point. Unapplied knowledge is just more noise in the mind.
If you understand this framework intellectually but don't implement it physically, you are just adding a layer of philosophical static to your existing internal chaos.
The text argues that true transformation doesn't start with massive, dramatic life upheavals.
It starts quietly, incrementally, with 3 specific silent commitments.
Let's dedicate some serious time to walking through these, because this is the operational manual.
Yes. Commitment 1 is daily observation. And the text is clear. This isn't about meditating on top of a mountain for 4 hours a day.
It's about developing a capacity for brutally honest self-assessment in real time.
It's observing your dominant daily state. Not what you say you feel or what you want to feel, but what your actual underlying baseline is as you navigate your day.
It requires you to become a neutral witness to your own nervous system.
When you are sitting in traffic, what is your body doing?
Are your shoulders tense? Is your jaw clenched?
Is your baseline an underlying hum of fear? Is it a frantic, exhausting need to micromanage and control everything around you?
Or is it a state of quiet anticipation?
The text insists that this baseline, this default setting you return to when you aren't paying attention, is your true, constant prayer to the universe.
It is the carrier wave of your existence.
If you don't even know what frequency you are broadcasting, you have absolutely zero power to change the channel.
Observation is the very first act of putting your hand on the dial.
You can't fix a machine if you refuse to look at the diagnostic readout.
Exactly. And once you observe the baseline, you move to commitment 2.
Conscious intervention.
Which the text defines as reducing the noise. This means carving out a few minutes every single day for true, unbroken silence.
Not just physical silence, but mental cessation.
It is about actively stabilizing the nervous system. And the text introduces a fascinating, very tangible data point regarding our environments here.
Yeah, I love this part.
It notes that disorganized, cluttered physical environments actually increase human anxiety and mental distraction by up to 30%.
30%. I want to dig into that because it bridges the metaphysical with the neurobiological.
The text points out that Tesla was notoriously, almost obsessively meticulous about his physical workspace.
And he didn't manage his environment because he was a neat monk or cared about interior design aesthetics.
He managed it as a strict measure to protect his internal energy field.
It comes down to cognitive load, doesn't it?
It does. Your physical environment is an externalized extension of your mind.
If your desk is covered in chaotic stacks of paper, half-empty coffee cups, and tangled wires,
your visual cortex is forced to constantly process that chaos in the background.
that processing requires energy.
And it generates a low-level, continuous signal of anxiety and unfinished business to the brain.
That anxiety feeds directly into your internal noise.
In this framework, cleaning your room or clearing your desk isn't just a chore. It is an act of deep energetic hygiene.
By removing the external static, you drastically reduce the friction required to maintain internal coherence.
That makes profound sense. You are literally removing physical obstacles from your visual field to calm your internal field.
Which leads us to commitment 3.
Responsible speech.
This is about treating your words as binding commands to the universe, rather than just hot air.
We have to completely stop using draining, self-deprecating phrases as throwaway comments.
You know, things like, my life is a mess, or I'm literally dying of stress, or I always mess these things up.
Because, returning to the electrical analogy, every single word you speak is a switch closing a circuit.
You are completing an electrical path every time you vocalize a state of being.
Right.
But here is where we need to address a major pitfall. The text makes a crucial nuance here regarding the fake it till you make it culture.
Oh yeah, we touched on this earlier.
The advice is emphatically not to walk around making grand, fake, delusional promises to yourself.
The energetic field responds to consistent, grounded honesty much better than it responds to forced, panicked optimism.
This goes back to the resultant vector. The text gives a perfect example of how people get this wrong.
If your bank account is overdrawn and you are terrified about paying rent,
Standing in the mirror and screaming, "I am a multimillionaire, wealth flows to me effortlessly," is going to create massive, destructive internal friction.
your logical brain looks at your bank app and knows you are lying.
Your body will reject the affirmation, your heart rate will spike, and the resultant vector will be pure, unadulterated stress.
You are trying to force a frequency you cannot structurally hold.
Instead, the text suggests a brilliant workaround, using bridging statements.
Bridging statements are great. These are statements that are objectively true, inherently positive, and critically, they do not trigger the ego's alarm bells.
So instead of screaming, "I am a millionaire," you find a truth you can align with. You say, "I am becoming more organized with my finances.
Or, I am learning how to navigate this challenge.
I am advancing step by step." These are statements that your thought, your emotion, and your spoken word can all completely align behind without a shred of internal conflict.
It is about finding the highest frequency you can actually hold without effort or cognitive dissonance.
Because, as the text heavily emphasizes, true, powerful harmony rarely comes accompanied by massive theatrical euphoria.
It doesn't look like jumping up and down and pumping your fists.
It comes with a quiet, calm, almost boring certainty.
It is a feeling of seamless adaptation. When you finally stop putting up internal blockages, when you stop fighting the current of your own energy.
The right people, the right solutions, and the right opportunities simply flow into your life like water finding its level.
It feels entirely natural. It feels inevitable.
So synthesizing everything we've pulled from this dense, fascinating document, the core takeaway is a complete structural paradigm shift in how we view reality.
The universe isn't a cruel teacher testing you with arbitrary obstacles.
It isn't a judge weighing your sins and virtues.
It is a highly sensitive, mathematically precise mirror responding to your dominant state of being.
You don't need to learn how to beg better or ask louder or hustle harder.
You need to learn how to be the frequency of the solution you are seeking.
Your entire life, how you walk into a room, how you talk to the cashier at the grocery store, how you handle a delayed flight or a spilled cup of coffee.
That is your actual living, breathing prayer.
To bridge the massive gap between philosophical theory and tangible reality, the text offers a final, incredibly simple, practical exercise.
And I highly encourage you listening to try this today.
Pick just one single aspect of your life that is currently causing you friction. Don't try to fix your entire life at once. Just pick one specific problem.
Now, close your eyes for just a few seconds and allow yourself to feel as though that specific problem is already resolved on a deeper level.
Crucially, do not try to imagine the specific logistical details of how it got solved. The how isn't your job.
Just feel the physical absence of the tension that problem creates in your body. Feel the relief.
The feeling of the boulder finally being gone from your shoulders.
That exact feeling. And in that brief state of physical relief, say internally, I acknowledge.
Do not ask for the problem to be fixed. Just acknowledge the state of resolution.
Then open your eyes and completely let it go. Drop the subject entirely.
Now pay close attention to your physical body. If your shoulders drop, if your breathing deepens, if your body noticeably relaxes.
You've understood the mechanism. You've achieved a momentary state of coherence.
If, however, your mind immediately races back to panic, planning, and resistance, you've found the exact site of your internal noise.
That resistance is exactly where your internal work lies.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, lingering thought to explore on your own, building off the physics we've discussed today.
We've talked extensively about how this law of resonant coherence applies to the individual.
How your internal state dictates your personal reality. But if the universe is a purely mathematical field, responding precisely to our internal states, imagine the implications on a massive global scale.
What happens when millions of people, entire cities or whole societies, unintentionally tune their collective internal radios to the exact same frequency of fear, anger, or impending doom?
Like through the constant consumption of the 24-hour news cycle.
What kind of physical reality are we collaboratively building when millions of nervous systems broadcast anxiety at the exact same time?
And conversely, think about the immense, untapped, literal world-bending power that might exist if a collective group of people consciously chose to put down the struggle, ignore the noise, and hold a shared frequency of quiet, unshakable certainty.
It makes you realize that maybe we aren't helpless victims of gravity at all.
Maybe. Just maybe, we are the ones generating the field.